So when our church went to in-ear monitors a number of years ago, it was my job to find out the best ones that's going to work best for the musicians. And after a bunch of trial and error, we actually settled on a surprising choice, the Bose SoundSport in-ear headphones. So hi guys, my name is Isaac. I am the audio tech at Church of the Rock. And this is my channel, Church Audio Life. And I really have enjoyed the whole process of learning and growing as a church audio tech. And one of the things was some of these interesting little details, like finding the right headphones for musicians. And I tried a bunch of Audio Technica ones, Shure ones. There was some of these KZ ones, or KZ for my American friends. None of them felt like they quite ever suited right. After trying on a whim, one set of these Bose SoundSport that were on special ends up, it's interesting how almost all of our musicians across almost all of our 5 campuses fell in love with them. So these are a little case here. It comes a nice little pouch. Comes with a couple of extra sizes of these rubber ear pads. It has a volume thing for like an Apple or Android device, and then the TRRS cable again for phones. So they're an interesting design in that they have this rubber thing that sticks into your ear, but doesn't go very far into your ear, and that actually holds into the kind of folds of your ear. And they don't go very far into the ear at all. And the reason for that is these are meant for sports. So let's say for a jogger, for instance, they need to be aware of their surroundings. If there's an ambulance or traffic noise, or even some kind of attacker, if they're jogging late at night, they need to be able to hear around themselves. So these actually don't isolate you very much at all, but they sit well in the ear. And that's why these are a surprising choice for in-ear monitors, because normally for in-ear monitors, people want headphones that really isolate well, that can really close it up so you don't get much of the stage volume, so that you can hear mostly just what you're getting in your own mix. But we tried a bunch of those, and they kept on not being very popular with our musicians. And the problem is that they would keep on having to pop them out if they wanted to hear the audience, or let's say during rehearsal, someone was speaking, and they had to pop one out, like someone was speaking wasn't on mic. And they stopped appreciating that. So even though our personal monitors have this local mic, for some reason they still didn't like that, because during full rehearsal or performance, there would be too much stage noise, and that would just get really muddy and dull sounding, so they'd have to keep on turning it up and down, and they didn't like that. But as soon as I stumbled across these, they loved it because they could always kind of hear around them. And if someone said something off mic, they didn't have to pull their headphones out, they could still hear them just fine. Or if someone walked up to them and whispered in their ear, they could still actually hear it just fine. They also have surprisingly good sound quality. I was actually quite surprised they have really good mid-range and really clear top end without being sharp or piercing, but they have a surprisingly decent low end. Now, they're not going to be like a big over-the-ear headphone that's got really nice ample low end, but for an in-ear, they're quite good. To the point where even quite often we have drummers and bassists use these, and they can still hear enough of their kick and enough of their bass to be happy. And to me, that's quite surprising for any kind of in-ears, but especially ones that you wouldn't think would necessarily have that big full low end. So really good sound quality. The pads are nice because they fit in nice and tight. They don't fall out for most people. They come with this great little clip for clipping it onto your clothing. And it helps it from being pulled out of your ears, nice little bit of strain relief. They work well, the gray color can be hidden well. One time there was a special for really cheap, the ones that were like a bright kind of lime green, and that's just that we've clashed way too much on stage, so couldn't save the money there. And yeah, speaking of money, right now these are $99 either in Canada or the US. So actually if you're in the US, it might be cheaper to order them from a Canadian site because you have a nice exchange rate. So sometimes these have been up to $119 when they were newer. I saw them once for $79, so I bought a bunch then. And so you can see if you may look for a sale or a deal. But I think these are actually well worth the money. And I think you're going to be a good choice, but a surprising choice for your in-ear monitors. So I realized recommending a Bose SoundSport that has very little isolation might be a fairly controversial thing for some people to recommend. They might even get like mad and say, well, you have to have isolation, you could be damaging people's hearing. And there's some valid points there. If you have a very loud stage and you're trying to compete with that, you'd probably want as much isolation as possible so that they don't have to turn their monitors up near as loud, and therefore that would actually protect their hearing. But we have a very quiet stage overall, so they're not having to compete with this hugely loud sound. They don't have to crank up their volume too loud. And like I said, we tried isolating headphones and people didn't prefer them. They'd even pull one out or not use them at all and have just a little bit of monitor coming from just random stage volume, which is never going to be great. And we have, again, 5 campuses worth of musicians, and almost unanimously people love these compared to the rest. And again, so you have to be very thoughtful if you're going to consider these for your church. If you have a very loud stage, this might not be the right solution, or whatever venue you might be using these in. But if you have a relatively quiet stage to begin with, then it might be a perfect choice. So I just thought I'd mention that there and make you well aware that I know exactly why normally you'd want isolation and why in this case I think it works on our stage. Well, hope that's helped you. Hope this helped to give you a choice about maybe something you haven't thought of for an in-ear monitor. And if you like it, please like this video or subscribe to the channel. All right, God bless.